Hey everybody, it's Alison Heikkila. Thanks so much for joining me for my latest YouTube video for Imagine. We are going to do some experimenting on a 6x6 gel press plate with some Kaleidacolor inks and fireworks sprays. I'm starting off with the Caribbean Sea Kaleidacolor inks. That's one of my favorite palettes in the Kaleidacolor collection, and I sprayed it with some ink potion number 9 to help the colors blend a little bit, and I rolled it out with my brayer. I am applying some sheet music to pull my print. I love using sheet music for monoprints, but in this scenario today, it wasn't my favorite thing. The inks and sprays that I'm using are all translucent, so you can really see the sheet music very well, and I prefer it to be a little bit more subtle. So I'm going to keep working with this print for a little while. I wind up not using it. Again, we're just experimenting right now, but I'll use it eventually. So I did another layer of the Caribbean Sea Kaleidacolor ink on top of the first one just to get some more color on there. And I got smart and I applied my gel press plate to an 8x8 acrylic block. This way it's easier for me to line my layers up as I go along. Then I added the new Messy Harlequin Stencil from A Colorful Life Designs to the gel press plate, and I'm going to spray it with some Danube blue fireworks spray. I'm going to spray it really well and roll some of it out with my brayer to try to get some of that color into the empty spaces. I flipped the stencil onto a separate piece of white paper, and now I'm going to flip the gel press onto the layers that I made before and try to get my print. Flip it over, reveal it, and it's just not my favorite, and that's all right. I can use it some other time. Now I'm going to make sure that I sop up all of that excess that was on the stencil. I'm putting a piece of roll-off print paper that I had onto that stencil, and I'm just going to push it down, rub it really well, and get as much of that fireworks spray to transfer onto the new piece of paper. And that looks really cool. I'm really happy with how that looks. But again, we're not using that today. We're going to use something else. Before we move on to the print that we are using today, we're going to do a little bit more with this last print that we started. So I added some more of that Caribbean Sea Kaleidacolor to my gel press plate, and I'm going to roll it out. And then we're going to put it on top of that last print that we made with the excess fireworks spray. Push it down. You can see how nice it is to have that acrylic block to line things up. It makes things really easy. And we have another cool print. Again, not really the look I was going for, but it'll be something cool eventually. I promise. This is the print that we're going to wind up using in the end. So we're doing a little bit of the same, adding that Kaleidacolor, spraying with ink potion number 9, and then I'm going to pull that color onto some copy paper. The colors are just so pretty. I can use this set of Kaleidacolors all the time. I really like how that looks. Okay, so now we're going to move on to using that beautiful Messy Harlequin stencil. Again, I'm tapping it down to make sure that it has a good seal on that gel press plate. Now I'm giving that Danube blue a nice good shake again because the micro powder has now settled since it's been a little while since we used it, and we need to redistribute it through the entire bottle of color. Now I realize that the fireworks spray is beating up on the gel press plate, which is why we're not getting a good stenciled look when we flip the plate onto our paper. So I decided to use the stencil itself. It's got all that ink on there. Why not just use that instead? So I'm using my brayer just to make sure I have really good, even contact, because now we're not using the gel press plate. We have just the brayer to play with. And look at that. That came out really cool. Of course, I'm not going to waste the ink that's on my plate. I'll use it, and it'll be for another time. We're going to go back to some sheet music. Oh no, we're using something else. We're using a roll-off print, I think. Yeah. But that last print is what we're going to be using for our card today. So now that we've got our print, I'm going to grab the Classic Words die set from Pinkfresh Studios and some Sheer Shimmer Spritz in Copper from Imagine. And I'm going to shake it up really well. This is another thing that you need to shake up. And I was originally going to put some on my acrylic block. I don't know why. Instead, I'm just dipping in with my paintbrush. And we're going to apply a couple of layers of that Copper Sheer Shimmer Spritz because we're going to use that for our shadow layer. Why not add more sparkle, right? More shimmer is always better. But I will say that in the end, this card print can be for anybody. It doesn't matter. Just because there's a little sparkly doesn't mean it can't be for a tough guy, right? We're going to make cards for everyone today. So I dried that down with my heat gun because I was impatient, and now I'm applying a second layer of that color. Isn't that pretty? It's so pretty. And I'm making sure that the stencil will fit in that area. Once again, I'm going to heat it up. You don't need to watch the whole thing, I promise. Look at that. So pretty. Love that. Okay, so now we're going to cut it. Ta-da! Looks fabulous. And now we have the main part of the stencil that I'm going to cut out of blue foiled cardstock. And off camera, just to spare you some time, I glued that together. I decided we needed some more, so I went back in with that sheer shimmer spritz in copper, and I applied it to the edge of my card base. Just one layer. We didn't need to go heavy on it this time. And while that's drying, we're going to keep adding some goodness to our card. I really love this copper, and I haven't used it a whole lot. And I decided, we should add some more to to that print, because why not, right? It's here, it's beautiful. Let's add some more sparkle to it. So I flicked on a little bit of some splatter, and look at that. Looks really cool with the rest of the shimmer from that Danube blue fireworks spray. Now I'm going to adhere the happy birthday and need some sequins. Gotta have some sequins, right? And again, this is still gonna work for anybody. I happen to have a couple of pieces that were cut in half, and I like to use those because I can make it look like the sequins is tucked underneath the sentiment or whatever object you happen to have on your card at the time. See, it's really easy to cut them in half. And instead of adding the bulk under your object, you can just add, a portion of a sequence, and it looks really cool. So I'm fiddling around. I'm trying to figure out how I want this to go, and I'm thinking that I'm going to work in threes, but it's not really working because I'm only using one size sequence, and I find that it's nice to have a varying size when you're doing something like that. So instead, I decided to have it going at a diagonal to help your eye move across the card. And now I'm using some on-point glue from Imagine to apply that sequence down. I like to have my pokey tool in my right hand with my glue, and then my jewel picker in my left hand. It just makes things a whole lot easier as I go along. And here's one of those that I'm going to tuck underneath, and it looks really cool. This is our card, you guys. So we made some fun prints that we'll use at another time, and we have a card that is perfect for anyone. And I hope you learned a thing or two. So I'll be back another time very soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be well, stay safe, peace out.